everybody. Welcome to EventSpeak with me, Big John, CEO of Beyond Experiential. You can find EventSpeak out on the web there at www.eventspeak.com. For those of you who have joined us before, you know that we are essentially an interview show. We've been talking with folks from all different facets of the event industry, around the world for that matter. And today's guest is no exception to that rule. Very excited to welcome her to the show. She is with Golden Goose Events in Barcelona, Spain. They provide English-speaking staff all over Europe. And she's joining us right now, bright and early there in Midnight Edition here in LA, the EventSpeak studio, my house. Lorena, thanks for joining us and welcome to EventSpeak.
Hi, Big John. How are you guys?
Doing terrific, doing terrific. How are you guys doing? I mean, first question I always ask is like, how are you, your family, your loved ones? How is everybody getting along through all of this craziness?
Well, first of all, luckily we are all safe, in good health, which is obviously the first thing right now. But as you said, we are based in Barcelona, so we are in the middle of the heat and currently in lockdown, complete lockdown. We cannot go out of the house, so working from home. So as you said, Golden Goose is an events company which provides English-speaking staff across Europe. And that's the reason why we have quite a good insight on what's going on in Europe. So I'll happily tell you a bit more about it.
Yes, I would be interested to know. Now, to clarify, when you say you guys are completely locked down, you know, here in America, we're sheltering in place, but we know if we need to go to the grocery store or essentials, as they say, folks are able to get outside and people could still go for walks and, you know, kind of stretch their legs, if you will. Are you guys completely on lockdown, similar to what Italy was doing, where you can't leave your home? So completely shut down. Wow.
I think Spain has one of the strictest lockdowns of the world. We are only allowed to go out, and that's just one person, to go and buy the main groceries for the week. Obviously to walk your dog if you have one. People are coming up with ways to fabricating dogs, fake dogs to go outside.
Of course they are. Of course they are.
So you can't do sports. You can, you know, everything's closed except for the main, you know, supermarkets or healthcare services. Everything's closed. You cannot go outside. You cannot go for a walk. You cannot go doing sports. You can't do anything. You have to stay at home and only go out if it's a major emergency or if you need to go out for groceries.
Wow. Wow. And do you guys have a time frame on when that ends, or is it just until they tell you? Okay.
Yes, we started the complete lockdown on the 13th of March. And since then, it has been extended by blocks of 2 weeks. I think the next block finishes on the 9th of May. It has just been extended a couple of days ago. Next block finishes on the 9th of May, but we expect that there will be another 2 weeks, which will make it a total of 2 months that we've been in lockdown.
Wow.
However, I must say that across Europe, the rules are very, very different from one country to another. I'm not
Tell us more about that. If you don't mind, tell us more, because I'd be curious to know, since, I mean, you clearly deal with all the different countries because of the nature of what Golden Goose does. How are you seeing COVID's effects from country to country, and how each country is dealing with it?
Exactly, yeah, completely different. Like, obviously in Europe, each country has their own government and has their own way of dealing with it. And I think these are very uncharted waters. So it has been a major struggle for governments to actually decide, which is why some of the governments have started their lockdowns late, including Spain and Italy. Actually, let me get back to where it first started. So in January, we started hearing this, coronavirus in China, but it was just China, you know, it's far away. It's not going to happen here. We were more worried about Brexit, to be honest, you know, what's going to happen? The UK is leaving Europe. What's that going to mean for our business? But suddenly, you know, it started to come closer and closer and closer. And then Italy, big red flag, Italy. And at that point, that was I think that was February. There was Mobile World Congress, which was a huge event. We had 150 people ready to work. And voices started saying, like, it's going to get canceled, it's going to get canceled. And we were like, no, that's never going to happen. You know, it's never been canceled. It's
impossible.
Not going to happen. No way. The government wasn't even talking about lockdown by then. And yes, like 1 week before it started, they canceled the show. So we were like very, very worried by then. And that's when we started to hear, Italy going bigger, more infections. Italy was the first country to start lockdown, very strict one. And that's when the Spanish government started to talk about lockdown, because we had like 8,000 cases or something. But whilst they were talking about it, things were happening. Like there was this was beginning of March. So Women's Day marches were going on. There was a political meeting with 9,000 people. There was a football match, and this was a big red flag. Football match between Valencia and Atalanta, which is Bergamo in Italy. So thousands of Spanish people went to Italy to watch the football match, came back, brought the coronavirus with them. And
it just spread from there.
It started spreading.
Yeah.
So that immediately after, a couple of days after that, we started to go into lockdown. But if they had started lockdown a week earlier, it would have saved maybe 70,000 or 80,000 lives.
Wow.
And that's when I think slowly it started to go up Northern Europe. So, when people started seeing that the south of Europe was getting infected that quickly, they all started doing lockdowns. However, some governments had a different view on things, like the UK in the beginning, and also the Nordics. I think Sweden. Sweden is actually one of the countries that hasn't even closed their schools. I think it's the only one in Europe. They had very few infections as well. There was a thought like, in the UK, like the more people get it, the quicker we'll be over it, and then
get the antibodies, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah.
But when they started people seeing that people were dying that quickly, they said no, let's go into lockdown. But it was already too late. And so each country has started lockdown, some with very few cases, some with a lot of cases. Obviously, the sanitary facilities that they have are different. I think maybe in the south there's been less budget put into healthcare in the last couple of years, which has affected the amount of deaths heavily. And lockdowns are different in each country, as I said before. Some of them allow you to go out doing sport. Some of them even allow you to go out having a walk with the kids, which is very, very needed, I must say, with 2 kids.
I could only imagine. Need some fresh air, huh?
A husband, a cat. It's a mess in here. So
I've got 2 cats. That's the most I can relate to on that statement.
Cats are here. There
they are. Mine are off getting into
I saw yours walking around in the background.
They're Siamese twins, Linus and Lucy. They're brother and sister.
I have a cat's tail sticking around my face with every web meeting I do for work, so people have gotten used to it.
Absolutely. It's so funny because there's been so many times when, I'm trying to work and I'm dancing across the keyboard and it shoots off an email. I'm sorry, please.
No, I was just saying that the lockdowns are different because it's a cultural thing as well. In Spain, in the south of Europe, we are used to touching and
sure.
hugging. And also people live more outside. They are, the weather is better, so you live outside. Your house doesn't pay such a big part of your life, so you usually don't have a garden, you don't have a terrace, you just go outside and have a drink and be happy. And in the north, people live more at home. So it's easier. I think it's easier to accept that the authority of being on lockdown. And in the south of Europe, I think there has always been more corruption when it comes to the governments. So people are more prone to defy authority. So that's why it's necessary, I think, that in the south of Europe, lockdowns are stricter than in the north, because people I'm half Dutch, so I know that people in the north, they look up to their governments, they respect them, and they don't need the authority to self-regulate and do whatever they're told. Whereas here we go like, what? The government says this, then I'm going to do the exact opposite. I don't care what the government says. Bastards, they steal our money. And so I think that's why maybe
I understand.
Spain and Italy have been that much more strict on their rules than the north.
It sounds like to me that it's a similar situation in the United States, where for us it's just throughout the country you have a lot of people that are if anything on one extreme of it, where they're sheltering in place, even though they can leave, they necessarily don't. They're scared. You've got people that are calling it a hoax and a conspiracy, and they're out protesting in numbers, and they're opening beaches in Florida, and Georgia wants to reopen. It's too soon. It's too soon.
Yeah, definitely.
I'd be curious to know, since you clearly you have a lot of staff that you work with. What are you telling them right now? Like, what is the advice that, there are a lot of folks that it's very uncertain times for our industry, for every industry, but especially our industry in the live event realm. What would you be advising your staff if they're like, so what's next? Where do you see this all going? Is this going to fundamentally change the game in Barcelona and in Europe for experiential?
I think it's obviously, the economy is going to get a big hit from this. Right now, events are being postponed, canceled, and I think people are still kind of positive, and they think that things are going to go back to normal in the summer. Obviously, we don't know. It's unknown. But I personally think that that's going to be really difficult. I'm looking more at end of the year, maybe even next year.
Sure.
So what I would say to staff, I think that, we have to obviously remain positive, be patient, keep in mind that we're doing this for our health and well-being of or more vulnerable parts of the population. There's parts that I would say to my staff, but also to my clients. Normally during the year you have so much things going on, and this is a good time to meditate about your business or your work. If you're a staff member, are you truly doing what you love to do? Are you getting the most out of it? Are you maybe invest in things, projects that you've been thinking about doing but haven't had the time to do? I think training is extremely important, and I'm not talking about going to university, or I'm just talking about training yourself on things that you find important. When you are motivated on learning something, for me, that's all you need to learn, and there's so many ways that nowadays with the internet and YouTube and all these channels where you can learn new skills. I would start for them, I would say, try to increase your knowledge, so that possibly someone that is solely depending on events could maybe, if this happens again next winter or even when lockdown's over, could maybe do something in the digital field as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I would say to staff.
Absolutely. Yeah. I like that a lot. You said a few things there that resonate with me. I practice Nichiren Buddhism with the SGI, and I chant and I meditate every day. And with my agency Beyond, like many others, you don't have it in your planning that you think that a pandemic could be something you have to consider as you're looking at your spend for the year, and as you're looking at, sitting with your clients and what the skew and what the scope is, looking at the event year ahead. But I feel like what you're saying is very important because, it's self-care is what I call it. It's taking time to do things that we don't typically do in our everyday lives. And we have an unprecedented amount of time right now to do exactly that. So it's a great time to be introspective. It's a great time to become better. It's a great time to really get to know ourselves. On that note, our good friend JT over at Evolve Activation sent something over to me that I really liked. It's from one of your client emails that we love, and I'd like to read it with everybody at home that's watching. That you suggest here. Right now is the time to take things one step at a time. Try to focus on well-being, sticking together in business, and staying ahead of the game as much as we can. I would love to hear more about how you and your teams are taking this time to focus on well-being and sticking together. So for one capacity, as you mentioned, training, maybe it's taking classes, maybe it's getting the digital realm. I think is something that no matter which way you cut it, you cannot inundate yourself enough. I feel like if there's much more of a digital component to what experiences are going to be, and how our respective companies contribute to that, then further training is completely necessary. But what would you say you think out of all of those things, what do you think is the most important thing for someone, say that specifically in the event industry, that's trying to wonder kind of how they're supposed to move forward? How do I do this? How do I do what you guys are saying right now?
Yes, I think it's true what you said. Like digital is the future, and that kind of, I think, worries a lot of events companies, as events are very much based on human contact, face to face. Obviously, there's a lot of examples of current events, even during this pandemic. Formula E has started their online races, so the pilots are actually using technology to do the race online. That gives an opportunity for sponsors. Even London Fashion Week is going to be organized online now. So definitely there's room and there's space to digitalize and also become more, maybe have events be a little bit more environmental friendly, which is something that is also an upcoming thing, I think. However, there will always be need for human touch, smell, hearing, listening to each other.
Interactions.
So I think that interaction is something that will never, go away. If you're going to close $1 million deal, you probably want to see that person face to face. You probably want to meet that person. So I think that events business is always going to stay there. It will change and you will have to adapt as a business. I think right now what companies could do or have to start doing is opening up their market in terms of territory. It could be territory, it could be adding services that you are not now handling to diversify your business, not solely depending on one sector, but touching various things so that if one of them falls, you can still rely on others. Maybe in the immediate future, instead of organizing one big event, you're going to have to break that down into 10 smaller events, because it's going to take a while before we can actually start doing huge exhibitions and big events. And
festivals, conferences, sure. Yeah, I agree with you there.
There's going to be lots of health and safety measurements, which maybe not all companies can comply with. I think it's very important, as you said, to keep investing in knowledge. As a CEO, as an owner, as a director of a company, you have to be knowledgeable a little bit. You have to know a little bit of everything. It doesn't, for me, in my view, you don't have to be an expert on just one matter. You need to know a little bit of everything so you can see the full picture and understand where you have to be and what moves you need to make, whilst keeping in mind the full picture of your company. You need to find ways to digitalize. As I said, human contact will still be very important, but the business is going more, it's going to be more and more digital. So I don't know, whereas before you did any way that you can digitalize your business, or make it easier. Sorry, my son's coming in.
It's quite all right.
Anyway you can do, whatever you can do to digitalize yourself, do it. Especially now, that if you can learn, if you have no clue about social media, if you have no clue about online marketing, train yourself and use this time to network. Very important, networking, finding synergies with other companies. Maybe you can do projects together.
Yes.
That's why EventSpeak is so important, I think, to,
You read my mind.
meet other events agencies, events business people that you can share your worries with, and you can cry and come up with ideas together on how to continue.
I swear, everybody, I didn't tell her to say that. She brought that on her own. But it's the truth. It was actually, you just gave me a really nice segue into, it's part of what, we're trying to do with EventSpeak is unite the event community, to give them a place to have dialogue, and, to have many minds on a problem, on a project. Once we're on the other side of all this, it's always better. And now, especially with having that kind of reach that you can get between a website and the app that we're about to launch, we'd love to see EventSpeak on everybody's desktop, on everybody's smartphone, because something when it was started back in 2005, and James launched it. And I found a bunch of jobs off of it. We got this question a lot, and I was talking with him earlier today, and said that a lot of folks were always interested. They wanted to, like, how can we work internationally? How can we work internationally? Well, with Golden Goose, you guys being an international agency, specifically specializing in English-speaking brand ambassadors and staff around Europe, how can you guys accommodate that? If people are interested to know more about that, is there a good website that we can mention? I think if I wrote it down right, it's golden-goose-events.com.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, yes. If people are interested in knowing a bit more, or just, talking about the current virus, the worries, if they need some moral support, if they want to talk about possibilities to collaborate, or if they want to go into Europe for business, they can go on our website, see everything we do, write me an email, give me a call, whatever they need.
Wonderful.
We have plenty of time right now, so I think it's really important that we stay positive, and, as I said, keep calm and collaborate and communicate and network. And I'm more than happy to speak with anyone that wants to know a bit more about what we do, or someone that has been thinking about going into Europe. I would be really happy to speak to them.
That is, that's really wonderful. And if it's as much of a pleasure as I've had talking to you today, Lorena, they're in for quite a treat. Ladies and gentlemen, once again, Lorena Smit Garcia of Golden Goose Events out of Barcelona, Spain, joining us today. Lorena, we really appreciate you taking the time to talk with us. Please come back again and keep up EventSpeak on your computer. Everybody, this is Big John signing off from Los Angeles. EventSpeak, www.eventspeak.com. Beyond Experiential is what I do, and saying goodnight to all of you is what I do now as well. So take care of yourselves and each other.